Hello and welcome. Today we are in the new tier 10 Dutch heavy cruiser, the Gouden Leeuw. The ship is now released. You can play it. It is the final ship in the Dutch tech tree, but there's a work in progress tag in the corner because I played this match in the previous patch. And back then the Gouden Leeuw was slightly weaker. Her reload was buffed by 1 second, so now it's 15 seconds instead of 16 seconds base. And because of that I have the work in progress tag, because this was still kind of a work in progress back then. The idea behind Dutch cruisers is that they are tanky for a cruiser. They have more armor for a cruiser than what cruisers normally get. They have decently punchy guns, but they have bad accuracy and, well, their reload is fairly long. So their damage output isn't the greatest. They have pretty good armor, and they have airstrikes. These airstrikes are effectively like depth charges are against submarines, except these hit surface ships. They are pretty difficult to land, much harder than depth charges are against submarines. And they have a much longer cooldown too. Against some targets they are very effective. The alpha damage actually gets kinda crazy. Ships with not very much deck armor, so we're talking many cruisers and also some battleships like Montana, for example, or Republic, I suppose. However, other battleships such as a Grosse Kurfürst or a Yamato with good deck armor tend to not suffer all that much damage from them. They do tend to get set on fire by it, but the alpha damage isn't actually that high. The airstrikes are effectively an additional tool for the ships. It's kinda like secondaries on something like a Georgia. It's usually not going to be the main damage dealer, but it can be pretty effective. Maybe the airstrikes are actually slightly more effective, but that's mostly because the main guns are pretty mediocre on these ships. The main reason why the airstrikes aren't that great is because they're very difficult to land, especially on moving targets. I mentioned that they could be effective against cruisers, but it's really hard to land them on cruisers. Here, I decided to drop both of my airstrikes on that Grosse Kurfürst because she literally ran aground and is now reversing. So it should be pretty easy to land a lot of bombs on her. And I went with both because she was already on fire, so... Oh wait, oh my god, that was a lot of damage. A lot more than I actually expected. I suppose the Cristoforo Colombo, sorry, has a pretty ginormous superstructure, so that probably added a lot to the damage. Overall though, I find the ship to be not that fun. Mostly because the guns just don't feel great. Actually, firing the guns and doing all of these things isn't that big of a problem. The main issue is that for some reason I just end up not dealing much damage. I mean, right now, 2500 to the Elbing, right? I understand it's a destroyer, you're not gonna do that much damage. But still, 2500 to fire once and it has a 15-second reload? It's frustrating at times. Especially a destroyer that's just sailing broadside on. She isn't even trying to dodge or anything. Hey, this time we did 928. I mean, it's damage, but it just feels frustrating. It doesn't feel fun. Because the ship... Oh, one more thing. The ship is also really stealthy for a heavy cruiser. So tankiness and stealthiness means that you might want to just go and flank with a ship like this, which actually works pretty great. That is, you can do that. The problem is that the payoff for doing this kind of a maneuver isn't really there because the guns aren't that effective, and so it just feels unsatisfying to me. But I can't really say that the ship is really underpowered, because it does deal damage, it does do the tankiness part, so it does its part to some extent. Doesn't obviously have anything fancy like radar, but it's still a heavy cruiser that's kinda playable. Now she does melt to HE spam, but nowadays I find that HE spam isn't that common. I mean, look over there, right? That GK doesn't fire HE, the other GK doesn't fire HE, that's a Venezia right there. Then we have, well, there is a Worcester there, but there's also a Slava, a Khabarovsk, a Gearing. These aren't exactly fire-spitting ships that you run against. And on our side we have a Republique, Napoli, Vermont, Shimakaze, and the Gouden Leeuw. I'm basically the only ship on my side in this engagement on this side of the map that actually spams HE. Everyone else really doesn't spam HE that much. Okay, Napoli might, but she isn't exactly a fire breather either. Hey, I fired at the GK, I hit 4 shells and I did 1200 damage. Super impressive. By the way, that's another GK that somehow ran aground. Okay, I guess the first one was a Cristoforo Colombo, but still, it's another battleship. Oh hey, that's a Grosse Kopfist that's reversing, so we should be able to land our drops. But this time I'm only going to use one, because that Grosse Kopfist is not on fire. And my plan is to set her on fire with the airstrike, and then I'll run a second one, and then set her on fire again after she has used her damage control party. And we did 4095 damage. 3 penetrations and 10 non-penetrations, and no fire by the way. So let's do a follow-up. There's a 60-second cooldown left. I think it's actually 100 seconds base. Oh, this drop is looking good. About as good as it can possibly get, I think. Oh, triple fire this time, nice. But sadly, since the first one didn't set a fire, this one is gonna get damage control. No, it's not. Huh. He should have used damage control party, but I suppose maybe he has already done so. Maybe actually that's why we didn't set a fire on the first one. Maybe she had the damage control party going at that point. But this is great. I mean, triple fire, that's some insane damage right there. And it is the only ship that's in the cap, so I can actually go out from behind here, because, as I mentioned, my concealment, 10.3 kilometers is pretty damn good. The AP on the ship is pretty decent too, however, it's not that great. I find that fire damage is kinda instrumental on getting the higher amounts of damage on this ship. Because the alpha damage on HE or AP both feels lackluster. Or, I suppose it's not that the damage is lackluster, it's that you don't hit as many shells per minute. Right? Because not the great accuracy and the fairly long cooldown both together means your damage output is gonna be pretty mediocre. We're winning? We're winning really hard actually. They are gonna get the B cap, but I don't know why these battleships and the Worcester never tried to push in together. It was like one ship went in, then it started backing off, then another ship went in, then it started backing off, then the third ship never actually decided to go in, it just started backing off. Kinda weird. Hey, maybe we can hit a moving Grosse Kopfist. I think we can actually land the drop pretty nicely, but hitting a cruiser tends to be quite difficult, because they can just turn out. 6,000 damage, I'm actually surprised. Now, the other reason why I want to fire HE is because it has synergy with the airstrikes. Because when airstrikes cause fires, and they damage on them, you can set fires with your HE spam, or vice versa. But now that the GK is already on fire, AP is gonna be pretty decent too. Hopefully, I think. Okay, maybe not 4,000 damage. I mean, it's something, but I don't know. That GK isn't angling or anything like that, and that seemed a little lackluster. Wow, the Khabarovsk actually did not take the B cap. I'm surprised. I suppose it doesn't really matter. Wow, that Montana is so... No, never mind. I think the Montana actually fought the ships at A. Yeah, we're definitely winning this. I mean, we have 3 battleships. I am not in a battleship. Even though you could say that the Gouden Leeuw is tanky, almost like a battleship. I think for its tier it's not quite as tanky as the Haarlem, but it's close enough. And the firepower definitely feels stronger on the Gouden Leeuw. And yes, it's literally called Gouden Leeuw, not Gouden Leeuw or something like that, which I don't understand. I still can't believe Dutch is a real language. I mean, that just doesn't sound right to me. If you want to say an H, why do you write a G? Seriously, this is worse than English. Okay, Montana is spamming HE, and Venezia obviously has SAP. I don't know what I'm expecting there. I would expect Worcester to spam HE, but not the Montana. Hey, we're in concealment. And now they can't shoot me. Because, okay, well, they... Oh my god! I was set on fire. Well, I guess that's it for my Never mind! Saved by the bell. So, overall, I think the Gouden Leeuw is just decent enough. But there are certainly better tier 10 cruisers, I think. And ones you'll probably have a lot more fun with. Wait, 76 bomb hits? I got more bomb hits than main battery hits? Wow. That's actually surprising. And 43,000 damage. I mean, yeah, this was an excellent game for airstrikes. I don't think I've had a game this good for airstrikes before. Okay, I've done more damage, but that's basically like when I got to drop on like a Montana or a Republique or something like that. But this one I just got so many damn airstrike hits, compared to main guns especially, that it was a pretty damn good game. You shouldn't expect matches like this. The red team was being kinda uniquely incompetent in their maneuvering this time. Also, I forgot to mention that the Gouden Leeuw actually gets larger caliber guns than, well, other cruisers. She has 283mm caliber guns, which obviously means pretty good pen. They're actually slightly better than the Riga and Moskva's pen, not Petropavlovsk level, but just slightly better. But it also means that you get more overmatch. Sadly though, 283 overmatches 19mm of armor, which is what destroyers have as a base. This means that AP only does overpen damage to destroyers. So not that great, especially at tier 10 where you have destroyers with larger or thicker armor plates at some point, like the Elbing for example, or the Gearing. So you don't overmatch those, but you'll only ever do overpen worth of damage. Commander skills, this is what I used. I start out with Gun Feeder, Priority Target, Superintendent, Concealment Expert, Adrenaline Rush. Then this is the base build. This is the first 13 points. After that, I figured I'd take Focus Fire Training. This improves your anti-air, which is actually quite ridiculous levels. It makes it even better. And it also improves your airstrike cooldown. Then I figured Top Grade Gunner, because your DPM is kinda questionable. So boosting that in any way is nice. And then Grease the Gears and Last Stand, because you have 2 points left and I don't know what else you'd take. Increased fire chance isn't really worth it because your base fire chance is already high enough. Then upgrades, I use the range upgrade because even with the range upgrade, she only has 19.1 kilometer range. And it's not like the shells slow down too much by that kind of range. So I don't really recommend the reload upgrade. But it is something to consider for specific builds. You see, when you go reload, when your firing range is short enough, you can hide behind islands better. Then concealment, damage control, because your fires last longer. Then better dispersion, Hydro upgrade, and Maynard's modification 1. Overall, the ship doesn't feel too underpowered, but it also doesn't feel particularly fun to me. Some players might like her, and I think in some organized play where other ships can be banned, you might see some play, who knows. And there are certain positions where airstrikes can be really powerful. Overall though, I'd say the ship is alright. So anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I would like to thank the patrons on Patreon. Thank you very much for your continued support, and I hope I'll see you guys next time.